What if the most powerful stories in the Caribbean weren't told on beaches? What if they lived in buried cities, boiling lakes, reefs that breathe, and festivals that shake entire islands to life? This isn't the Caribbean you think you know. This is a journey across 25 islands, volcanic, coral, ancient, defiant. From the Pitons of St. Lucia to Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago, welcome to the real Caribbean. Raw, sacred, alive. More than 7,000 islands stretch across the Caribbean basin, from the limestone cays of the Bahamas to the volcanic peaks of the Windwards. Some were born from ancient coral reefs. Others erupted violently from the seafloor. But all are shaped by the same forces: nature, history, and the collision of continents and cultures. Long before colonizers arrived, the Taino, Kalinago, and Arawak paddled between islands in dugout canoes. Then came sugarcane, empire, resistance. Today, that legacy lives on. In the languages, in the music, and in the faces of people who still carry ancestral memory like a rhythm in their step. This is not just a place of beaches. It's a living world of biodiversity, of underwater cities, of Creole cuisines and mountain trails. A place where every island is its own nation, with a soul, a story, and a surprise waiting just offshore. And that's where we begin. Before the Caribbean was paradise, it was chaos. Volcanoes tore the sea open. Islands rose smoking from the abyss. Today, those same lands hold twin peaks, boiling lakes, and the scars of fire that never fully healed. Where mountains touch the sea, two volcanic spires rise straight out of the ocean, the Pitons. They are St. Lucia's signature, UNESCO protected, and almost otherworldly in their symmetry. But these towering peaks are not just beautiful, they're evidence of a deep geologic violence that formed this entire island. St. Lucia is a land of contrast, fire and water, rain and reef. Beneath the Pitons lies Soufriere, a coastal town named after the volcano that still smoulders behind it. Here you'll find sulfur springs, the world's only drive-in volcano, where steam pours from fissures in the earth and bubbling mud pools hiss just feet from the road. Nearby, visitors soak in mineral baths used since the 1700s, once by French colonials, now by travelers seeking healing in the earth's heat. But St. Lucia isn't just geology, it's life. Inland, rainforests climb the mountain slopes, wild orchids bloom beside tree ferns. And through it all, you hear it. The call of St. Lucia's rare parrot, the jaco, found nowhere else on Earth. Down by the coast, Marigot Bay curls into the island like a green-painted fjord. It's so hidden, pirates once anchored here undetected. And in Anse-la-Raye, a fishing village north of Soufriere, every Friday becomes a street carnival, smoke rising from grilled fish, calypso spilling from alleyways, drums echoing into the night. This island is layered. A beach destination, yes, but also a geological museum, a rainforest preserve, a Creole culture carved from volcanic stone. St. Lucia doesn't ask you to choose between beauty and depth, it offers both. The nature island, Dominica, doesn't ease you in. it confronts you. Cliffs that plunge into crashing surf, mountain ridges draped in mist, and rivers that boil, literally, from the Earth's core. Nicknamed the Nature Island, Dominica is not built for mass tourism. It's built by volcanoes, rain, and time. There are no mega resorts here, no calm lagoons, no pretenses. But for those who come, it offers something far rarer than luxury: wild, untouched wonder. At its heart lies Pitons National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and geologic treasure trove. Here, steaming fumaroles puff into the rainforest canopy. Trafalgar Falls crashes in twin torrents down moss-covered cliffs, and further inland, a 6-hour trek leads to one of the rarest sights on Earth, Boiling Lake, a crater filled with violently bubbling grey water. It's the second largest of its kind on the planet, and it roars with heat from the molten world below. But Dominica's power isn't only in fire, it's also in water. With 365 rivers, countless waterfalls, and gorges like T2 and Midland Falls, the island is a natural aqueduct. Canoes drift down the Indian River, its mangroves thick and tangled, a place so cinematic it became a set in Pirates of the Caribbean. Offshore, the reefs are vibrant and thriving, especially at Champagne Reef, where volcanic gases fizz from the seabed like an underwater hot spring. Here, divers glide through clouds of bubbles, past coral gardens undisturbed by over-tourism. Yet Dominica isn't just wilderness, it's cultural resilience. In the east lies the Kalinago territory, the last remaining community of the island's indigenous people. They are descendants of the original islanders who resisted colonial conquest for centuries, and today they preserve ancient carving, basket weaving, and spiritual traditions in harmony with the land. Dominica also pulses with Creole culture, from spicy callaloo stews and bush rum to Creole language spoken in villages like Mahout and Grand Bay. What sets Dominica apart is that it never tries to be like the rest of the Caribbean. It doesn't need to. It offers something more primal, more intimate, a place where the land still breathes, the forest still sings, and nature, not resorts, is king. The island that was buried alive. Montserrat is a place where memory walks beside you. For centuries, it was known as the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean, lush, peaceful, with a rare Irish Caribbean heritage born from 17th century settlers and indentured workers. But in 1995, everything changed. The Soufriere Hills volcano, silent for centuries, erupted with terrifying force. Over the next 2 years, pyroclastic flows incinerated the southern half of the island. Entire villages vanished. Ash rained from the sky. The capital, Plymouth, once bustling with life, became the modern-day Pompeii of the Caribbean. Today, the southern half of Montserrat remains an exclusion zone, off-limits and uninhabitable. But within this devastation lies something hauntingly beautiful. Collapsed homes partially buried in ash, a church steeple poking from a sea of grey. Plymouth is still visible, frozen in time, roof lines intact, doors still hanging, as if waiting for life to return. And yet, Montserrat didn't disappear. It adapted. In the north, new villages like Braids and Lookout sprang up, a new government centre was built, and with astonishing resilience, the people began again. They built an observatory, the Montserrat Volcano Observatory, not just to monitor the still active Soufriere Hills, but to educate, to understand the very earth that nearly consumed them. And in a world where natural disasters often mean abandonment, Montserrat chose defiance. Nature too has come back. The northern highlands are rich with green, forests of mango, guava and soursop. Birdsong fills the air, including the rare Montserrat oriole, now the island's national bird and a symbol of survival. Culturally, the island's heritage remains powerful. There's calypso, Irish folk ballads, and soca fused in village festivals. And there's the ghost of AIR Studios Montserrat, where before the eruption, stars like Elton John, the Rolling Stones, and Dire Straits once recorded albums, lured by the peace of the island and the stillness of its past. Montserrat's story is not one of tourism brochures. It's a living lesson in fragility, in nature's power, and in human endurance. You don't come here for beaches. You come to witness what it means to lose and to rebuild with grace. The Spice Island. If the Caribbean had a scent, it would be Grenada. Nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, bay leaf. These aromas rise from the soil itself. Grenada produces nearly a third of the world's nutmeg, and its air is heavy with spice. It's not just branding, it's ecology. Volcanic soil, tropical rainfall, mountain slopes. Grenada isn't grown, it grows. But behind the sweetness is fire. This island, like many of its neighbours, was forged by volcanic activity, part of the same arc that shaped the Lesser Antilles. Inland, you'll find Grand Etang Lake, a water-filled volcanic crater surrounded by rainforest. Mist clings to the trees, Mona monkeys call from the canopy, and locals tell of a Loch Ness-like creature, the lake's mysterious guardian, glimpsed only by the lucky or the superstitious. That rainforest feeds Grenada's rivers, which drop dramatically in places like Annandale Falls and Concord Falls, where visitors bathe under jungle cascades, water made warm by sun and stone. Along the coast, Grenada takes on yet another identity. Grand Anse Beach stretches 2 miles, its soft white sand and calm blue water rivaling anywhere in the Caribbean. But unlike some polished resort islands, Grenada's beaches still breathe, with fishing boats pulling in red snapper at dawn and school kids laughing in the surf by midday. Then there's St. George's, the island's capital, and one of the most picturesque towns in the Caribbean. It wraps around a horseshoe-shaped harbour with pastel buildings stacked on hillsides and 18th century forts guarding the cliffs. Here, colonial history mixes with local life, spice markets, cricket matches, and the sound of soca rolling from shopfront speakers. And beneath the sea, a different world altogether. The Moliniere Underwater Sculpture Park, just offshore, was the first of its kind in the world. Dozens of life-sized human figures rest on the ocean floor, a haunting and beautiful blend of art and coral restoration. As reef life takes hold on the sculptures, they become living monuments to both creativity and conservation. Grenada doesn't shout, it simmers. Its power is quiet, the kind that grows underfoot, lingers in your senses, and stays with you long after you've gone. Come for the spices, stay for the soul. Where fire became memory. On the morning of May 8, 1902, Mount Pelée erupted. In less than 2 minutes, a pyroclastic surge leveled the city of Saint-Pierre, once called the Paris of the Caribbean. The blast was so intense, it incinerated 30,000 people, almost the entire population, and left only one known survivor, a prisoner in a stone cell, spared by pure chance and thick walls. Today, the ruins still remain, a theatre reduced to skeletal columns, a cathedral without a roof, iron jail bars twisted by heat that once reached 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. But Martinique did not end with Saint-Pierre. It transformed. Mount Pelée still looms over the island, quiet now, but never forgotten. Its presence shaped not only the land, but the identity of the people who live in its shadow. To the east lies Le Carnival Nature Reserve, a lush peninsula where trails cut through mangroves, cliffside paths overlook the sea, and tidal flats teem with birds. This is Martinique's wild side, untouched, whispering of how nature reclaims even the fiercest scars. Further south, life returns in vibrant colour. Les Salines Beach unfolds with pale sand and leaning palms, one of the most photogenic spots in the Caribbean. Cap Macré, by contrast, is a local secret, rugged, remote, wind-sheltered and protected by coral reef. Here, the water is shallow, silent, and glowing with impossible blues. Culturally, Martinique is unmistakably Caribbean and unmistakably French. Locals speak both French and Creole. Baguettes ride home on the handlebars of bicycles. But what emerges most is resistance, the legacy of African ancestry, colonial trauma, and cultural pride. You can taste it in colombo de poulet, a curry-like stew born of Indian indenture and island spice. You can hear it in zouk music, created here in the 1980s, a blend of African rhythm, Antillean melody, and French pop. You can see it in the festivals, where women wear madras fabric and head wraps with codes that once conveyed secret messages of love and status during slavery. Martinique is fire remembered, culture reborn. It's not just an island that survived, it's one that creates, reinvents, and refuses to be defined by the ash of its past. Where reefs bloom like cities, and the ocean carves its own architecture. Some islands rise in fire, others are born of water, sculpted not by eruptions, but by coral, current and time. These are the coral kingdoms of the Caribbean. Worlds where the ocean writes the rules, and life begins just inches below the surface. The shore diving capital of the world. To understand Bonaire, you don't look up, you look down. Just off its arid coast lies a living underwater metropolis. 63 marked dive sites, many just steps from shore. No boats needed, no crowds, just a tank, a mask, and a reef that begins almost the moment your fins touch the water. This is Bonaire National Marine Park, one of the oldest protected reef systems on Earth. It surrounds the island in a ring of biodiversity, with parrotfish, sea turtles, and branching corals that glow like antlers in the light. For divers and snorkelers, it's paradise. For marine biologists, it's a model for conservation done right. But above the water, Bonaire is just as surprising. There are no mega resorts here. The island feels quiet, sparse, more like a secret than a destination. Winds whip across cactus-covered plains. Wild donkeys graze along roadsides. And the buildings of Kralendijk, the main town, are painted in soft pastels that catch the Caribbean light like a watercolor palette. Then there's the pink. In the island's south, vast salt pans stretch to the horizon, shallow pools of water slowly evaporating under the sun, leaving brilliant white salt mounds. But the real show is the color. Some pans turn hot pink, stained by microorganisms that thrive in hypersaline water. And there, balancing like punctuation marks against the sky, walk thousands of Caribbean flamingos, one of the largest breeding colonies in the Western Hemisphere. Nearby, you'll find something more sobering. Tiny whitewashed stone huts line the shoreline, slave huts, barely tall enough to stand in. Built in the 1850s, these were shelters for enslaved workers who harvested salt in brutal heat. Today they stand silent but not forgotten, a reminder that even paradise carries painful roots. And yet, Bonaire remains peaceful, defiantly so. The island has rejected cruise port expansion, opting to keep tourism low and eco-focused. It's a place where the reefs still breathe, the beaches remain uncrowded, and the wind writes patterns in the sand. Here, nature is the luxury, and the best views, they're underwater. Colour above, wonder below, where Dutch charm meets reef-lined coves. Curaçao isn't just an island, it's a spectrum of colour, of culture, of coast. On land, it's one of the most photogenic cities in the Caribbean. In Willemstad, the capital, pastel Dutch townhouses line the harbour in coral pinks, lemon yellows and sky blues. A tradition said to have started in 1817, when a sun-blinded governor banned whitewashed paint. But Curaçao's colour doesn't end at the waterfront. It plunges into the sea. Offshore lies one of the Caribbean's richest marine ecosystems. Curaçao is a diver's dream. No currents, 100-foot visibility, and reefs so close to shore you can swim to them in minutes. At Playa Porto Mare, snorkelers wade into water as calm as glass, where brain corals and sea fans sway beside double reef formations. At Playa Canepa, one of the most beloved beaches in the Caribbean, the water glows electric turquoise, shallow, transparent, surreal. Curaçao has over 35 beaches, most tucked into quiet coves between limestone cliffs. Some are wild and empty. Others, like Mambo Beach or Jan Thiel, transform into vibrant social scenes with beach bars and live music at sunset. But beyond the reefs and resorts lies something even more surprising: Christoffel National Park, Curaçao's largest nature reserve. Here, the dry tropical landscape shifts. Cactus forests, wild orchids, and white-tailed deer cover rugged hillsides. Trails lead to Mount Christoffel, the island's highest point, offering panoramic views of sea and scrub, reef and ridge. And within its caves, the Hato Caves, carved by ancient waves, you'll find petroglyphs left by the Arawak people, who first settled Curaçao over 1,500 years ago. Today, Curaçao remains a blend: Dutch-European precision, Afro-Caribbean rhythm, Latin warmth. It lies just outside the hurricane belt, making it a reliable destination year-round. And unlike its more polished neighbours, it keeps its authentic edges. Graffiti-lined alleys, rum-soaked beach shacks, and a language, papiamentu, born from a dozen tongues. Here, the coral isn't just in the water, it's in the soul of the island. And every dive, every sunset, every cobbled street is part of Curaçao's full-spectrum story. Where the desert meets the sea, Aruba is a Caribbean paradox. No jungle, no rainforest, no towering volcanoes. Instead, cactus groves, sandstone cliffs, and desert wind. This is a land sculpted by air. The island's iconic divi trees don't just grow, they lean permanently westward, bent by the relentless trade winds that shape everything here, from dunes to surf. And yet, the sea tells another story. On Aruba's western coast, beaches like Palm Beach and Eagle Beach are stretches of powdery white sand that seem to glow under the Caribbean sun. All Aruba beaches are public, everyone, so travellers and locals alike hop freely from cove to cove. In the early morning, the water is so calm it mirrors the sky. By afternoon, windsurfers and kiteboarders cut across the turquoise shallows, especially at fishermen's huts, a global destination for wind-based adventure. But it's the interior that surprises most. Inside Arikok National Park, which covers nearly 20% of the island, Aruba reveals its wild soul. Limestone caves hide thousand-year-old Arawak petroglyphs. Waves explode against natural bridges and limestone bluffs. And off-road trails lead to sites like Fontaine Cave and Conchi. The island's famous natural pool, carved by volcanic rock and battered by surf. Aruba's capital, Oranjestad, blends Dutch colonial architecture with Caribbean colour. Candy-coloured buildings, trams and sea-facing promenades make the city a walkable mix of boutique shopping and breezy cafes. But Aruba isn't just for sun-seekers. Head underwater to dive the SS Antilla, a 400-foot German freighter from World War II, now an artificial reef, teeming with coral, angelfish and sea turtles. And if you're lucky, you'll spot flamingos, not in zoos, but wandering beaches on private islets just offshore. Aruba is south of the hurricane belt, making it one of the safest year-round destinations in the Caribbean. Its climate is dry and sunny, with more clear days than almost any other island in the region. It's an island of contrast, wind versus sea, desert versus reef, Dutch legacy versus Caribbean rhythm. And yet it all works, because Aruba doesn't try to be what it's not. It's not a lush escape, it's not a volcanic spectacle. It's a land carved by extremes, kissed by sunlight, and defined by freedom. The depths beneath the blue. From above, the Cayman Islands seem almost too perfect. Just a trio of emerald specks adrift in endless turquoise. But below the surface, they drop off into one of the deepest underwater chasms in the Western Hemisphere. This is where reef meets abyss. Welcome to the North Wall, a vertical drop-off that plunges 6,000 feet into the Cayman Trench, just minutes from shore. Divers drift weightless along the edge, peering into a blue so deep it swallows light. This is world-class diving, where sea turtles, eagle rays, and even hammerhead sharks sometimes emerge from the gloom like ghosts. Yet the Caymans aren't just for adrenaline seekers. At Stingray City, in waist-deep glass-clear water, visitors wade among dozens of wild stingrays. Gentle, gliding, velvet soft, drawn here by generations of fishermen who clean their catch in these shallows. On land, 7 Mile Beach is the crown jewel. A perfect ribbon of white coral sand, so fine it squeaks beneath your feet. The water is warm, calm, and so clear it's often hard to tell where the sky ends and the sea begins. But the Cayman Islands aren't just one island. There's Grand Cayman, with its high-end resorts, luxury dining, and cosmopolitan energy, but also Cayman Brac, a rugged limestone outcrop known for caves, hiking cliffs, and the wreck of the MV Captain Keith Tibbets, a Soviet-built warship now resting on the seafloor. And then there's Little Cayman, barely populated, wildly peaceful, and home to the Bloody Bay Marine Park, one of the most pristine reef systems on Earth. Even the interior of Grand Cayman surprises. At the Queen Elizabeth II Botanic Park, visitors can spot the endangered blue iguana, a species brought back from near extinction and found nowhere else in the world. And although the Caymans are a financial powerhouse, home to over 700 banks, there's nothing cold or corporate about the land itself. The Caymans are a marriage of luxury and nature, high-end yet wild, curated yet untamed. Come here and you can have a sunset dinner on the beach. Then dive into the blackness of the wall before dawn. This is not just a place to visit, it's a place to plunge into. The Reef Island of the West. Roatan isn't just a Caribbean island, it's the gateway to the second largest barrier reef on Earth. Just off the coast of Honduras, Roatan rises from a cradle of coral, part of the vast Mesoamerican Barrier Reef, second only to Australia's Great Barrier Reef in size. Here, the reef hugs the shoreline so tightly that in many places, divers and snorkelers can simply walk in from the sand and descend into a world of sea fans, brain coral, and blue tang. West Bay Beach is the crown jewel, powdery white, postcard perfect, with visibility that often stretches over 100 feet underwater. But the magic of Roatan goes far beyond the beach. At Sandy Bay, you'll find the Roatan Institute for Marine Sciences, where research meets ecotourism. Visitors can swim with dolphins, ethically and educationally, while learning about reef conservation and marine biology. Inland, the jungle whispers with life. Goomba Limba Park is a microcosm of the island's biodiversity, where capuchin monkeys leap through the canopy and scarlet macaws soar over emerald treetops. But to understand Roatan, you must also hear its human voice. This island is home to the Garifuna people, descendants of West African, Arawak, and Carib cultures. A vibrant Afro-Caribbean community with deep roots and living traditions. In towns like Punta Gorda, drumming circles still echo by the shore. And traditional dances, handed down for generations, tell stories of survival, ocean crossing, and resistance. And Roatan is growing. It's a cruise ship port, a scuba training capital, and an ecotourism hub. Yet somehow, its charm holds steady. You can still find wooden piers where fishermen haul in fresh snapper, beach bars made of driftwood, and local kids diving from mangrove roots into coral-clear water. Above all, Roatan is defined by what surrounds it, a reef that feeds, protects, and teaches. To visit here is to stand on the edge of the Americas, to dive into the rhythms of the sea, and to witness the Caribbean not just as scenery, but as sanctuary. Maya ruins, Taino roots, African fusion, and indigenous survival. Beneath the beaches and beneath the waves, the Caribbean holds something older than time. Long before resorts and cruise ships, these islands were home to voyaging peoples, sacred lands, and cultures forged by collision. From the Maya temples of Mexico, to the drumming villages of Jamaica, to the indigenous and African legacies that survived conquest and slavery. This chapter dives into the soul of the Caribbean. This is not a history lesson. This is a living story, and it begins here. Smoke, sound, and stone. Cuba isn't just the largest island in the Caribbean, it's the most complex, a nation of paradox, poetry, and profound heritage. In Havana, history lives in motion. The streets rumble with 1950s American Chevys, their chrome flashing under colonial balconies. Spanish architecture, weathered by salt and revolution, glows in pastel hues as salsa rhythms spill into the alleyways. But leave Havana and Cuba changes. To the west, the Viñales Valley unfolds in deep green. It's a land of mogotes, dramatic limestone towers rising from fertile red earth. Here, tobacco farmers still plough with oxen, hand-roll cigars in wooden huts, and pass down growing techniques learned over centuries. This is where time seems to hold still, where soil, sun, and sweat create one of Cuba's most iconic exports, the Habano cigar. And on the northern coast, the beaches of Varadero stretch more than 12 miles, a pristine contrast to the rhythmic chaos of the cities. Here, the sea is impossibly clear, calm, controlled. A reminder that Cuba is also a land of great beauty, not just history, but what makes Cuba unforgettable is its soul. A soul shaped by Taino roots, Spanish conquest, and Afro-Cuban resilience. In the countryside, Santeria altars blend Catholic saints with Yoruba deities. In the music, from rumba to son cubano, every beat carries the memory of diaspora, struggle, and celebration. Cuba is not easy to define. It's proud, poetic, and full of contradictions. But one truth remains. Every stone, every song, every puff of tobacco smoke tells part of the same story. A story of survival, a story of identity, a story that still dances through the Caribbean night. Reggae, resistance, and the mountain heart. Jamaica isn't just a destination. It's a heartbeat. A pulse that thunders through speakers, rivers, and mountaintops. A place where every element, from soil to soul, seems to move in rhythm. And nowhere is that rhythm more alive than in the Blue Mountains. Rising to over 7,400 feet, these mist-wrapped peaks create a world unto themselves. Here, one of the rarest and most expensive coffees on Earth grows in volcanic soil, harvested by hand, under morning fog, on slopes so steep they seem to defy gravity. This is Jamaica's green heart, where hummingbirds dart, ferns unfurl, and maroon communities still thrive in villages built by enslaved people who escaped to the mountains centuries ago. But Jamaica is also about flow, and the rivers tell that story. The Rio Grande winds through deep jungle, best explored on a traditional bamboo raft, poled by locals whose ancestors once fled through these same forests to freedom. The Martha Brae and White River offer gentler rides, lined with vines and orchids, while hidden limestone caves echo with water and time. Then there's the sound that gave Jamaica to the world. Reggae, born from pain, protest, and poetry. From trench towns' tin-roofed shacks to global stadiums, this is music that moves movements. And even now, you can walk the halls of the Bob Marley Museum in Kingston, or hear new beats rising from the streets of Montego Bay, Negril, and Port Antonio. On the coasts, Jamaica's diversity continues. At Montego Bay, luxury resorts overlook reef-filled waters. At Treasure Beach, rustic coves and fishing villages preserve the island's raw beauty. And at Dunn's River Falls, thousands climb, barefoot, a terraced waterfall as it cascades directly into the sea. But Jamaica is never just scenery. It is resistance and resilience, a blend of African, British, indigenous, and global, cooked into jerk chicken, poured into rum, carved into sculpture, and sung into eternity. Here the past is not just remembered, it's remixed. And Jamaica doesn't whisper its story. It belts it, loud, proud, and unforgettable. The first free nation of the Caribbean, forged by fire, spirit, and song. They called it Haiti, land of high mountains. And Haiti remains exactly that, a land of jagged peaks, mist-filled valleys, and a cultural resilience unmatched anywhere else in the Caribbean. This was the first black republic in the world, born from the only successful slave revolt in history. The Haitian Revolution, led by Toussaint Louverture, didn't just shape Haiti, it reshaped the world. That defiant spirit still echoes through Haiti's mountains, music, and daily life. Stand on the ramparts of Citadelle La Ferrière, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the largest fortresses in the Americas. Built atop a mountain after independence, it was meant to repel any future invasion, a stone monument to freedom at all costs. Below, the Palace of Sans-Souci lies in elegant ruins, a Haitian Versailles, now wrapped in jungle vines and history's silence. But Haiti isn't just memory, it's movement. In coastal towns like Jacmel, Haitian culture bursts with colour. Carnival masks, papier-mâché art, and wrought-iron sculpture fill markets and galleries. And in the streets, the sounds of rara bands, a blend of Vodou ritual, African rhythm and rebellion, stir something ancient in the air. The coast offers its own magic. At Labadee, white sands curl into quiet lagoons. In Île à Vache, a remote island off the southern shore, wooden boats drift past mangroves, and locals welcome you with stories told in Creole, Haiti's Creole tongue. And inland, rivers slice through deep ravines, waterfalls tumble through forests, and hidden hot springs offer peace unknown to most outsiders. Despite its challenges, hurricanes, earthquakes, political unrest, Haiti endures. It endures through faith, through Vodou, through community, through art and protest and prayer. It is a place where the ancestors are close, and the earth still remembers. To visit Haiti is not to escape, it's to confront beauty in its rawest, truest form, to stand in a land that has fought, again and again, to tell its own story, and it is still writing it. Jewel Islands, infinite culture. This is where the Caribbean meets South America. And the result is unlike anywhere else in the region. Trinidad and Tobago are sister islands with opposite personalities. One is wild, loud and pulsing with energy. The other is quiet, unspoiled and deeply serene. Let's start with Trinidad, the cultural engine. This is the birthplace of calypso, soca, and the steel pan, the only acoustic instrument invented in the 20th century. Every February, the streets erupt in the largest carnival in the Caribbean, a kaleidoscope of feathers, sweat, brass bands, and rhythm that seems to shake the island itself. But behind the music is deep diversity. Trinidad has one of the most mixed populations in the Caribbean, descendants of African, Indian, Chinese, Syrian, and indigenous peoples living side by side. This blend creates a culinary fusion unlike anywhere else. Roti, doubles, callaloo, pilau and follery, street food that carries entire histories in each bite. And just west of the capital port of Spain, something ancient bubbles at the surface, the Pitch Lake, the largest natural asphalt deposit on Earth. Used by indigenous peoples, then the British Navy, and even NASA, this surreal oozing expanse is as otherworldly as it is historic. Head east and the island softens into nature. The Asa Wright Nature Centre, tucked in the Northern Range, is a sanctuary of hummingbirds, orchids and waterfalls, and one of the top birding spots in the world. But if Trinidad is movement, Tobago is peace. Smaller, slower, and fringed with empty beaches, Tobago is everything a hidden Caribbean island promises. Pigeon Point, coconut palms lean over aquamarine shallows. In Buku Reef, glass-bottom boats glide over coral gardens. And deep in the rainforest, the oldest protected forest in the Western Hemisphere, you can hike under trees that have stood for 400 years. What sets Trinidad and Tobago apart isn't just their beauty, it's their depth, their defiance of stereotypes. Here the Caribbean isn't frozen in time, it's evolving, dancing, inventing. Come for Carnival, stay for the rainforest, the reef, and the rhythms that never stop. Where the Maya watch the sea, Cozumel means Island of the Swallows, a name given by the Maya, who once built temples here facing the rising sun and the restless sea. Off the coast of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, this flat stretch of jungle and reef has become a sanctuary for both the spiritual and the adventurous. Beneath the surface lies one of the richest coral reef systems in the world, part of the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef, teeming with life in every colour imaginable. This is a place where divers glide past massive coral heads, descend along vertical drop-offs, and drift in currents that carry them like whispers through underwater cathedrals. One spot says it all: El Cielo, the sky, a shallow sandbar where the water is so luminous and still it reflects the heavens above. Here, stingrays swim underfoot and starfish carpet the sea floor. But Cozumel's story began long before tourism. This was sacred ground for the Maya, who believed the island was home to Ixchel, goddess of fertility and medicine. At San Gervasio, ruins still echo with ritual, temples aligned with solstices, stone altars now draped in lichen and silence. Pilgrims once crossed from the mainland in dugout canoes, braving strong currents to pay tribute. Even now, Cozumel holds that duality, sacred and playful, quiet and electric. In San Miguel, the island's main town, you'll find cobblestone streets buzzing with scooters, taquerias serving cochinita pibil, and local artisans selling obsidian pendants and woven hammocks. To the east, the island turns wild. Here the Caribbean pounds into cliffs and empty beaches stretch for miles. No resorts, no umbrellas, just raw coastline, wind-whipped and free. Cozumel is not the hidden gem it once was, but it remains one of the Caribbean's most vivid, authentic and spiritually resonant islands. It's a place where you don't just snorkel through reefs, you swim through centuries of memory. Unspoiled nature, secret coves, and Caribbean solitude. There are places in the Caribbean where the modern world disappears. No cruise ports, no mega resorts, no high-rises. Just wind, water, and the wisdom of people who've lived in harmony with the sea for centuries. This chapter is about those islands, the ones not found on postcards, but written in whispers. The last free archipelago. Off Panama's northern coast, scattered like emeralds across turquoise waters, lie the Blas Islands. A chain of over 300 islands and cays, of which only about 50 are inhabited. They are governed not by Panama, but by the Guna people. An indigenous nation that has fiercely preserved its autonomy, culture and land. Here you won't find cars or paved roads. You'll find handmade wooden sailboats, women sewing vibrant molas, layered textiles of sacred patterns, and children paddling between islands in dugout canoes. Tourism is welcome, but on Guna terms. Visitors stay in thatched huts on tiny cays, where electricity is a few hours a day, and the stars stretch uninterrupted from one horizon to the other. The islands themselves are paradise distilled. White sand, leaning palms and clear shallows alive with stingrays, sea turtles and endless coral gardens. But it's the Guna worldview that makes this place unforgettable. In Guna cosmology, the land and sea are alive, and balance between humans and nature is sacred. Their political system is matrilineal, democratic, and entirely self-governed. They rejected assimilation, they fought for sovereignty, and they won. To explore the Blas Islands is to step into another reality. One where time bends, modern noise fades, and nature speaks loudly in the quiet. It's a rare thing in today's world. A culture uncolonized. An ecosystem unspoiled. An archipelago free. The Cloud Island of the Caribbean. You won't stumble upon Saba. This island isn't on cruise routes. It has no beaches, no golf courses, and no tourist strips. And that's exactly the point. Just 5 square miles wide, Saba rises steeply from the sea like the crown of a submerged volcano. A near-perfect cone wrapped in rainforest and mist. At its heart, Mount Scenery, the highest point in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, often veiled in clouds. They call it the Unspoiled Queen, and it might be the most mysterious, vertical and pristine island in the entire Caribbean. Getting here is an adventure in itself. Saba's airport has the shortest commercial runway in the world, just 1,312 feet long, hugging a cliff and ending abruptly in the ocean. Landing here feels like dropping onto a postage stamp, but once your feet hit the ground, everything slows. There are only 4 villages on the island, all connected by the road that couldn't be built. A hand-cut mountain highway constructed by locals, defying engineers who said it was impossible. The houses are all red-roofed, white-walled and shuttered by law. The people? Fewer than 2,000. Most are descendants of seafaring Europeans, Africans and islanders who've carved a life out of cliffs and cloud forest. But what draws the world to Saba is below the surface. This island sits on a volcanic ridge that plunges into deep blue sea. creating some of the most dramatic dive walls in the Caribbean. The Saba Marine Park, established in 1987, was one of the first of its kind, a haven for sea turtles, reef sharks, and unspoiled coral systems. On land, the island is a botanical wonder. Trails lead through tree ferns, heliconias, and banana groves, with views that open suddenly over plunging cliffs and endless horizon. There is no resort strip, no all-inclusive anything. Only cliffside inns, hiking trails, dive boats, and silence. To stand on Saba is to stand above the clouds, to hear the wind before you hear a voice, and to experience the Caribbean in its raw, elevated form. It may be the smallest island in this journey, but it may also be the most unforgettable. The Caribbean butterfly, where volcano meets rainforest. From above, Guadeloupe looks like a butterfly in flight. Two wings divided by a narrow sea channel, each one telling a different story. To the east, Grande Terre, flat, dry, ringed with limestone cliffs and silky white beaches. To the west, Basse Terre, mountainous, lush and crowned by a smouldering volcano. Together, they form a French overseas region with Caribbean fire in its veins. Let's begin in Basse Terre, the wild wing. Here rises La Soufrière, a volcanic giant that still steams and trembles. Known as La Grande Dame, she's an active force, cloaked in rainforest and mystery. You can hike to her summit through Guadeloupe National Park, a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Passing hidden waterfalls, boiling springs, and tree-covered ridges that vanish into the clouds. This is a land of deep green, where mangroves breathe at the water's edge, and rivers slice through gorges so steep they seem ancient and untouched. To the east, Grande Terre is where the sun plays. Famous beaches like La Caravelle and Sainte-Anne offer calm turquoise waters perfect for swimming, sailing, or simply watching the palm trees bend with the wind. But don't mistake Grande Terre's beauty for emptiness. Its markets overflow with Creole spices, tropical fruits and Colombo curry. Its streets thrum with zouk music, and its restaurants blend French technique with Afro-Caribbean soul. At the heart of it all is Pointe-à-Pitre, Guadeloupe's cultural and economic capital. Here, colonial facades face modern galleries, and the Memorial Act, a powerful museum dedicated to the history of slavery, offers one of the Caribbean's most profound cultural experiences. And then there's the rhythm of Guocar drums, of carnival parades, of spoken Creole stories passed through generations. Guadeloupe is not a resort, it's a living culture, a biodiverse frontier, a Creole world balanced between the Atlantic winds and Caribbean waves. You don't just visit Guadeloupe, you listen to it, you taste it, you hike into it, you let its butterfly wings carry you across landscapes so varied, you'll swear it's more than one island. The island of 365 beaches, one for every day of the year. few places live up to their legends. Antigua does. They say it has 365 beaches, one for each day of the year. But what truly defines Antigua isn't just the soft white sand, it's what surrounds it. Limestone headlands, pirate hideaways, and an undying connection to the sea. In the southeastern Caribbean, Antigua rose from the ocean millions of years ago, not as a volcano, but as uplifted coral and limestone. That makes its coastline different, jagged, pierced with caves, and carved by time into natural wonders like the Pillars of Hercules, massive sea stacks shaped by crashing waves into towering formations. Yet for all its wild edges, Antigua is a sailor's dream. In English harbour, history floats on the water. This was once the naval stronghold of the British Empire, and its heart was Nelson's Dockyard, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here, stone buildings and old masts whisper tales of empire, piracy, and maritime glory. Every April, the harbour comes alive with Sailing Week, one of the largest regattas in the world. Thousands converge, mega yachts, wooden schooners, sleek racers. It's not just a race, it's a celebration of ocean culture. But there are secret sides to Antigua. Half Moon Bay curves like a crescent on the island's eastern edge, where the Atlantic crashes in with raw power, a favourite for surfers and solitude seekers alike. In the northeast, Devil's Bridge, a natural rock arch, channels the sea into explosive bursts of spray. Inland, old sugar plantations crumble beneath vines, and trails lead to hidden viewpoints. The past is never far. And then, of course, there are the beaches. From the calm bays of the west, ideal for families and snorkeling, to the windswept coves of the east, where only footprints and driftwood remain. Antigua delivers on its promise, not because of the number of beaches, but because each one feels like it's yours alone. Antigua isn't just beautiful, it's balanced between British history and Caribbean culture. Between the adventurous and the effortless. Between the past and the present. All surrounded by turquoise seas. Volcanoes, yachts, and untamed beauty. If the Caribbean had a secret signature, it would be written in the scattered isles of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A country that is not one island, but 32. Some smoke, some glitter, some vanish with the tide. Together they form a chain of contrasts, volcanic drama in the north, and sailing paradise in the south. Start at the top, Saint Vincent. Here stands La Soufrière, an active volcano that last erupted in 2021, blanketing villages in ash and reminding the world that the Caribbean is still being born from fire. But even beneath that volatile power, life flourishes. The island's interior is a tapestry of rainforest and waterfalls, with trails leading to hidden cascades and steaming craters. black sand beaches frame the coastline, and in the capital Kingstown, narrow alleys pulse with local rhythms, and markets overflowing with spices, breadfruit, and tropical fruit. But venture south, and the world softens. Welcome to the Grenadines, a string of low-lying islands and coral cays that drift like pearls across turquoise water. There's Bequia, a sailor's favourite, where time slows and whaling history still lingers. There's Mustique, where royalty and rock stars retreat behind bougainvillea-draped villas. Canoan, where luxury hides in emerald hills. Union Island, where kite surfers dance in the wind. And Petit Tabac, a deserted islet where scenes from Pirates of the Caribbean were filmed. Each island is different, some untouched, some refined, but all are united by a sea so clear it seems painted from memory. Sailing here isn't an activity, it's a way of life. Traditional wooden schooners still sail between isles, and catamarans drift from beach to beach, where the only footsteps in the sand might be yours. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is where the Caribbean's raw power and refined peace meet in perfect balance. A land of volcanoes and coral reefs, of fishing villages and five-star villas, of ash, salt and silence. You don't just visit this archipelago, you surrender to it. The most beloved destinations, reimagined with depth and awe. They're the names everyone knows, the postcards, the guidebook staples, the honeymoon favourites. But behind the brochures, these icons hold deeper stories of ancient Wales, colonial crossroads, and rainforests that breathe with centuries of life. In this final chapter, we revisit the legends, not to follow the crowds, but to look beneath the surface. From whale songs to stone streets, it begins with a sound dash. Not music, but the song of a 40-ton whale, echoing through the warm waters of Samana Bay. From January to March, thousands of humpback whales migrate to this northeastern corner of the Dominican Republic to give birth in shallow waters. They breach, sing and roll in the waves, a performance unchanged for millennia. And just one of many wonders hidden in this country of contrasts. The Dominican Republic is the most visited destination in the Caribbean, and for good reason. But beyond the beach chairs of Punta Cana and the high-rise resorts lies a land brimming with natural drama and historical depth. Travel west and limestone towers rise from emerald forests in Los Haitises National Park, a surreal landscape of karst hills, mangrove estuaries, and Taino cave art that predates Columbus. And then there's Santo Domingo. This is the oldest continuously inhabited European city in the Americas. Founded in 1498, it's a living museum of cobblestone streets, Gothic cathedrals, and sun-bleached forts. The colonial zone, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, still echoes with the first steps of empire. Yet the Dominican Republic is more than history. It's alive with rhythm. The pulse of merengue and bachata fills plazas. The scent of sancocho stew and roasted plantains drifts through open-air kitchens. And in mountain towns like Jarabacoa, travellers hike to waterfalls or raft down churning rivers that cut through pine-covered peaks. This is an island of nearly 1,000 miles of coastline, 6 national parks, and a culture that blends indigenous, African and European roots into something uniquely Dominican. It is not just a resort escape, it's a country with depth, history and soul, where every whale's tail and stone archway carries a story older than tourism itself. Rainforests, bioluminescence, and the oldest city in US territory. It begins in the forest. In the northeast mountains of Puerto Rico, clouds gather over a realm where frogs sing, ferns unfurl, and waterfalls tumble through ancient trees. This is El Yunque, the only tropical rainforest in the US National Forest System, and a biological wonderland where over 240 species of plants and animals exist, many found nowhere else on Earth. But El Yunque is only the beginning. Puerto Rico is not just one island, but an archipelago of contrasts. Spanish colonial cities, Taino ruins, Afro-Caribbean rhythms, and surf towns where the waves write poetry on the sand. In Old San Juan, the past is still alive. Blue cobblestone streets laid by Spanish colonists in the 1500s. Wind between pastel buildings, courtyards, and the imposing bastions of El Morro and San Cristobal, fortresses that once guarded the gateway to the New World. Here, the fusion of cultures is palpable, a blend of Spanish, African, Taino, and North American influences, coexisting in language, music, architecture, and cuisine. Puerto Rico is also a land of living water. On the island of Vieques, the sea glows at night. Microscopic plankton called dinoflagellates emit light when disturbed, creating the surreal bioluminescent bay phenomenon. Kayak through Mosquito Bay under the stars, and your paddle leaves trails of electric blue in the darkness. Meanwhile, surfers carve the waves in Rincon, where Caribbean meets Atlantic. On Culebra, beaches like Flamenco, consistently ranked among the world's best, stretch white and wide against water so clear it feels unreal. Yet beyond nature and history, Puerto Rico holds another identity: resilience. This is a place that's faced hurricanes, colonialism, earthquakes, and economic trials. But through it all, the people have built something deeply rooted. They dance. They protest. They rebuild, and they welcome with warmth. Puerto Rico isn't just an island to explore. It's an island that invites you to feel. From the spray of a rainforest waterfall to the glow of a midnight sea, from the beat of salsa in a San Juan alley to the silence atop a mountain trail. It's the Caribbean, with soul, strength, and a story still unfolding. Where oceans collide and pigs swim free, In the Bahamas, the sea isn't just water, it's every shade of blue ever imagined. Stretching across 100,000 square miles of the Western Atlantic, the Bahamas is an archipelago of over 700 islands and 2,400 cays, most of them uninhabited. And among these countless jewels, two stand apart for their drama, their beauty, and their surprises. First, Eleuthera, a long, slender island that twists like a ribbon across the sea. Here the land is so narrow that in places, you can stand with the Atlantic Ocean on one side and the Caribbean Sea on the other. At the Glass Window Bridge, these two titanic bodies of water meet, one dark and stormy, the other calm and turquoise. Separated by nothing more than a sliver of rock and a few feet of road, it's one of the most surreal views in the entire Caribbean. Eleuthera is also home to pink sand beaches, especially along Harbour Island, where microscopic coral fragments tint the shore a blush rose at sunrise. Quiet villages and pineapple farms dot the hills, and the pace of life slows to a whisper. Then, 70 miles to the south, lies Exuma, a world unto itself, made up of 365 islands, one for every day of the year. The Exumas are the very definition of paradise. Crystal clear waters so shallow and clear, boats seem to float in air. Sandbars stretch for miles at low tide, and reefs burst with colour just below the surface. But what truly made Exuma famous is, of course, the pigs. On Big Major Cay, a colony of feral pigs has become an international sensation. No one knows exactly how they got there. Some say sailors left them to return for a feast that never came. Today, they live free, swim out to greet boats, and pose for more photos than most celebrities. Yet even here, the Bahamas holds more secrets. There's the Thunderball Grotto, a cave system made famous by James Bond. A dome of limestone pierced with shafts of sunlight and swirling fish. There's Dean's Blue Hole on nearby Long Island, one of the deepest underwater sinkholes in the world. And there are the Loyalist ruins, remnants of families who fled the American Revolution and tried to rebuild their lives in coral stone and palm shade. The Bahamas is not one destination, it's a scattered masterpiece. In Eleuthera and Exuma, the raw elements come together: sky, sand, sea and silence. And for all the fame, the pigs, the pink sand, the bridge between oceans, there remains something rare here: space to breathe, light to dream, and an ocean that seems to go on forever. Where the ocean drops into the abyss and the beaches never end. Imagine standing at the edge of the world. Where the ocean floor suddenly plummets 2,000 feet and whales glide through the abyss beneath you. Welcome to Turks and Caicos. A British overseas territory made up of over 40 islands and cays, only a handful inhabited. This archipelago sits where the Atlantic Ocean crashes into the Caribbean's edge, a line drawn in coral, limestone, and unimaginable blue. The star, of course, is Providenciales, or Provo, home to Grace Bay, often ranked among the best beaches on Earth. Here, 12 miles of powder white sand curve gently along waters so turquoise they look lit from beneath. The visibility is world-class, 100 feet, sometimes more, and the sand is soft as sifted flour. But beyond the shoreline, the world drops away. At Grand Turk, the sea falls off a cliff. This is the Turks Island Wall, an underwater drop-off where the seafloor plunges from shallow reef to deep ocean trench in a matter of seconds. It's one of the best wall dives on the planet, and during the winter months, migrating humpback whales pass close enough for snorkelers to hear their haunting songs. Back on land, life slows to a whisper. In North and Middle Caicos, the least developed islands, wild landscapes dominate. Undisturbed beaches, limestone caves, and flamingo-filled wetlands. At Mudgin Harbour, waves batter the cliffs with Atlantic fury, and dragon-shaped rock formations rise from the sea. And yet, for all its grandeur, Turks and Caicos also delivers adrenaline. Long Bay Beach is kiteboarding heaven, shallow steady winds and warm waist-deep water for miles. It's where beginners find balance, and pros launch into the sky like seabirds on invisible strings. But beneath all the beauty, this is a place shaped by reef and time. Turks and Caicos sits atop two submerged plateaus, ringed by coral. A marine nursery that supports some of the healthiest reef systems in the Caribbean. Conservation is serious here. Much of the surrounding water is a protected marine reserve, where fishing is limited and nature still calls the shots. So whether you're floating over reef canyons, walking for hours without seeing another soul, or watching a whale breach against the horizon, Turks and Caicos doesn't just impress, it transports. Pink sands, rum roots, and the soul of the Atlantic, on the eastern edge of the Caribbean, where the trade winds blow strongest and the Atlantic waves rise highest, sits an island that is Caribbean in culture, but Atlantic in spirit. Welcome to Barbados. Unlike its volcanic neighbours, Barbados was born of coral uplift, not fire. Its limestone base filters rainwater into underground caves, its coast carved by centuries of swell. It stands apart, geographically, geologically, and in how it tells its story. Start in Bridgetown, the island's historic capital and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here, colonial-era warehouses line the wharf where sugar once fueled an empire. The echoes of that time are everywhere, in the neo-Gothic Parliament, the Anglican cathedrals, the 17th century garrison that guarded British interests in the Caribbean for centuries. But Barbados isn't frozen in time, it's alive. Every Friday, locals and travellers alike converge on Oistins, a humble fishing village turned national gathering, where the Oistins fish fry becomes a celebration of grilled mahi-mahi, calypso music, and rum flowing like memory. Speaking of rum, this is its birthplace. The world's oldest documented rum distillery, Mount Gay, has been bottling Barbados's sugarcane spirit since 1703. Take a sip, and you taste more than molasses. You taste plantation history, revolution, survival, and celebration. Barbados is also a study in contrast. To the west lies the famed Platinum Coast, where calm waters lap against high-end resorts, and quiet beaches like Paynes Bay shimmer under sunset skies. To the east, the wild Atlantic slams against Bathsheba's rocky shore, sculpting coral boulders into alien shapes and creating a surfer's paradise. In the center of the island, limestone caves like Harrison's Cave reveal chambers of crystal formations and underground rivers. And across the countryside, green monkeys, cane fields and mahogany groves tell of an island that's both tamed and untamed. Barbados may be small, but it holds multitudes. It's where Afro-Caribbean culture, British tradition, and natural wonder collide. And though it's the final island in this journey, it reminds us that the Caribbean doesn't end at the shoreline. It extends into history, into identity, into rhythm and resilience. Barbados is not just a destination, it's a declaration of beauty, of legacy, and of what it means to be Caribbean on your own terms. Wonders of the Caribbean. 25. Most breathtaking islands revealed in 4K, from fire-forged mountains to coral kingdoms. From pirate coves to pink sand shores. We've sailed across a sea of wonders, not just to see the Caribbean, but to understand it. This is not one place, it is many worlds. Each island shaped by its geology, its people, its pulse. Some islands burn with volcanoes, others breathe through reef and mangrove. Some whisper in ancient languages, others sing in reggae, zouk and salsa. Some feel untouched, others are etched with centuries of survival, resistance, and reinvention. But what binds them all is a rhythm, an undeniable, unbreakable rhythm of tides and trade winds, of stories and struggle, of cultures layered like sediment, until each island becomes a living monument to beauty and resilience. You've seen the names: St. Lucia, Dominica, Trinidad and Tobago, Montserrat, Bonaire, Jamaica, Cuba, Aruba, Cozumel, the Virgin Islands. But now you've seen the souls behind them. So when you think of the Caribbean, don't just think of beaches and sunsets. Think of boiling lakes hidden in rainforest. Of walls that drop into the abyss. Of caves glowing in midnight water. Of volcanoes that still breathe, and pigs that still swim. This is the Caribbean, alive, defiant, awe-inspiring, and always, always worth exploring deeper. Want more? If the glowing bays of Puerto Rico or the volcano trails of St. Lucia sparked your imagination, this is just the beginning. More cinematic travel documentaries are coming soon, from the Andes to the Arctic Circle. So hit subscribe and let the world unfold in 4K. Remember, travel farther, experience more.